Welcome to Dear Tay, You Got This. This podcast is a weekly motivational love letter to those who are looking for a change, are currently going through a change, and they need just a little pick-me-up. Tay is a transformation and spiritual coach and author who understands that one small habit over 1 year can create a lifetime of growth. First, we will talk about our topic, and at the end of each episode, I will do a trinity. The trinity is a brag, gratitude, and desire. If you'd like to share your wins, questions, and trinity, please call or text 330-552-7234 to be featured on the podcast. I love hearing about your success and how you are transforming. To learn more about your host, visit her Instagram page, Phoenix of Change. Good morning, everyone. Tay here with Dear Tay, You Got This. I hope that you guys are having a wonderful start of the week. I am super excited to get on here today and do a little bit of a Q&A. Over the last couple of months, I have been doing a self-care series. And within that series, I realized that some of you guys have no idea who the hell I am. So I wanted to go ahead and do a Q&A. I also realized within that you guys probably have a little bit of questions in regards to the content that I make. So I wanted to go ahead and just cover some of those things. It's not a whole lot of questions that I made up for, what I do and why I do this. But I figured I'd go ahead and break up the monotony a little bit and do a Q&A session. Then next week, we'll go ahead and get back to the remainder of the self-care series, which is basically a series where I break down my 2023 year and talk about the self-care things that I did for myself during that year and how that helped me through my process of healing. So if you are interested in that, definitely go back to the self-care series, the beginning of the self-care series, where you find out a little bit more about me and what self-care is all about. And as we move through this process of getting this podcast on a more, not consistent, but on a more, weekly basis and getting our topics together, you'll start to see what this is all about and how, this podcast can really help you to elicit change in your life. So first, let's go on and start off by saying who I am. My name is Tay. I am a transformational and spiritual coach. And it was a long time before I even got to this point, like where I am. I was just talking to my friend Jetty about it last night as we did a podcast, which won't be put on the podcast for at least another few weeks. But we were talking about how I ended up in transformational and spiritual coaching. Because when I first started, I was a trauma release guide. And as a trauma release guide, I basically help to guide people through the healing process and releasing the energy of their trauma. And one of the things that I ended up doing was I did a 14-day summit. It was an online summit where I basically put together every single interview. I did what is happening? Stop it. Cat messing with everything. Hold on a second. What a nuisance. I did a 14-day summit, and it was basically about trauma release and empowering survivors. And I got together a lot of counselors, people who did EMDR, people who did energetic healing, and different coaching techniques, and really wanted them to come together so that they could talk about how they themselves heal trauma and how they help their clients to heal trauma. Within those 20 people, I was also one of those people who came in there and was talking about what I do as a whole, as a business. And it was really nice because at the end of it all, I got to meet a lot of cool people who did trauma work. But the downside of that was I became really burnt out. And I thought that I was burnt out because um it it was just like it was 14 days. I literally had worked on this for 16 weeks before that. So in reality, it was more like 18 weeks. And I did majority of it by myself. And when I say majority of it, I mean there may have been a couple things here and there that people may have helped me with, but for the most part, I got all the people to come to the summit. I tracked them down, researched them, looked them up. I interviewed everyone. I did all the editing for all the videos. I put the website together. I did all the emails, like everything. And at first I thought it was just because I had like done all this work over the last 18 weeks. I literally like ate, slept, and breathed this summit. And then afterwards, I started going to counseling and realized that it was mostly because I didn't really feel like I belonged in that space. And that was really weird for me because I had been doing trauma release healing for like 6 years at that point, and I couldn't understand what was wrong. So I would tell people like, I'm, really in this place where I feel like I need to be out of this. And they were just like, well, what's going on? And I was just like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like it's not right for me. And later I realized that it was because of how I had to present trauma release, or how other people were presenting trauma release, that I thought I had to present it that way too. And I was like, ooh, I really don't like that. I don't like the way this feels in my body. So what I did was I went ahead and like did some soul searching during my healing period of 2023. And about halfway through going into August, I realized that what I really wanted to do was transformation and spiritual healing, and transformation and spiritual coaching, in the sense that I could help people really come to an understanding of who they were in their lives, how they could change things in their lives without having to first deal with the trauma behind it. And I thought that was a really interesting way of looking at it, because not only did I not have to lead with trauma, but I could lead with the love, the happiness, and the joy that they could feel while they were changing their lives, while they were starting over, while they were really growing into a different person. Um, and that is really how I ended up in transformation and spiritual coaching. I literally just was like, I went through this thing in 2023, which was a deep healing experience for myself. And how could I bring that to other people and still help them with their trauma? And that was my biggest thing. So now with what I do, I first decided that I wanted to do this podcast, but within that, I do energetic alignment workshops. I do Reiki. I'm a practical Reiki master. I have programs where I can help people, feel a little bit more confident, where they can, create boundaries, things like that. And I realized that that is truly where I wanted to be. That's truly how I wanted to help people. And what I've noticed over the years is how much I've helped myself more in my space than I have in other spaces. Um, I realized that for myself when I started to do trauma release, what that really looked like. And it really looked like energetic alignment. It looked like transformation. It looked like change. And I was like, oh, how can I make this into something that other people can also digest and not just feel like it's just all woo woo? Because although my life is, very, magical and happiness and everything, I still have the other side of the coin. Things often don't go the way that I want them to. Um, people, places, and things end up not in my sphere, or they do because of how I interact with my world. And I felt like it was very important to teach people how to do that as well. So that is how I grew as a transformation and spiritual coach. Now, within that, who do I help? In a perfect world, I would love to say that I help everyone. Because I do realize that there are a lot of people out there who want change, who want to transform their lives, who want to transform the situation that they're in, and for whatever reason just cannot. And I realize that that's just about everybody. But just like they tell you in, in coaching and everything, it's not about helping everybody. It's about helping those who are looking for your help. And that's the one thing that I can say that at this point in my life is truly what I'm doing is I'm helping people who already know a little bit about energetic healing, who already know that they want to change something in their lives. And as we move forward with that, that helps me to help them even more. Because what I realized for myself as I went through my healing journey is that I went and found people in my life that's therapists, that's NET, that's friends, that's other people, other peers. I found those people because we were on the same path, we were on the same wavelength. And I wanted to help people who also were on the same wavelength as myself, who were already healing, but wanted to take it a step further by doing energy healing, by doing energetic alignment, understanding that they have a trauma that they want to deal with, but right now they need help with, changing a habit, something that could basically change the trajectory of their life, how that could be done. So the people who I help is any individual who is looking for a different method of change and are ready to actually put the work forward to change. If you are ready to take action with your life, if you are ready to start over but not sure how, if you are ready to really understand yourself more deeply so that you can find the people that you're looking for in your life, that's who I help. Now, some of the other questions that came up while I was getting this ready was, when should I start? I think a lot of times we are thinking about all of things, who, what, when, where, why, right? The when is always one of those things that gets us stuck because we feel like we don't know enough. We feel like we don't have the information. I am definitely one of those people, or I should say, I used to be one of those people where I was like the paralysis by analysis. I would read all of the books, I would do all of the coaching programs, and then I'd be like, all right, now where do I start? This coaching program and this book could have been like, all right, this is where you start. And I'd be like, no, I want to start here. And I completely get that. And what I want to tell you is that when it comes to starting, just like I talked about in my previous podcast episodes of timing and perfection, there is never a right time to get started. Okay, there's never a right time to get started. And I say that because oftentimes we get put into a situation where we have to move forward, we have to start. And if we don't, either in that moment, actually go ahead and start, we probably won't do it at all. I'll give you an example. In June, when I started my podcast, one of the other things that I decided that I wanted to do was my journey to alignment, or my journey to energetic alignment workshop. And I had been wanting to do this program for 2 years. I literally set up 2 years ago to do this program. And how I did that was I went out and bought the book. That was, just because I went and bought the book. I bought the book in 2018. I did the program myself and I was like, this is a great program. I found out so much about myself. And I got a lot of clarity on my life, my situations, my relationships, and was like, okay, let me go ahead and actually do this program and like share it with other people. So I contacted the author and I was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know how much your book has changed my life. How can I get copies of your book? Like a big like lump sum of books so that I can start this program. And she was like, oh, I can just send you an invoice. I would love to do that. Da, 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 da. And she sent me an invoice and I bought 30 books. I got those books 2 years ago on my birthday. They literally came to my house on my birthday. And I was like, yes, I'm going to go ahead and start. And I didn't. But you know what I kept doing? Every year I kept doing this alignment workshop for myself. I kept doing it because I was like, I saw the changes that I made, the mindset shifts, the clarity that I received from doing this program. And I was like, man, I really want to do this. I really want to get this together. And every time there was something always stopping me. So I was like, all right, how can I do this? So I was like, all right, cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start it in March of this year. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start in March. And you know what happened? I went ahead and I kind of like, I took a step back and I was like, ooh, yeah, like, I don't think I'm ready. But then I was like, you know what? I need to go ahead and start it. Bump it. I'm putting it out into the universe. And I went ahead and started it. And you know what? Not a person on this planet signed up. I seen interest, I seen people say, oh yeah, this looks cool, whatever, but not a person, not a soul signed up. And I was like, okay. So what did I do? Instead of like being like, okay, usually I'd be like, yeah, all right, well, nobody signed up, so I'm not gonna do it. I was like, nope. I called a couple of my friends, I called a couple of my sisters, I called my aunt, and I was like, hey, I am doing this program. I would love for you to try it. And you don't have to pay me for anything. I just want to go ahead and do the program because if I don't do it, I won't do it. And they were like, oh, okay, yeah, no, we can go ahead and do that. So I was like, cool. So then they went ahead and came into the program and started it. And even within that, like I have to tell people like there's no better time to start than now. And when you think about the win, you also think about what is it that I start to change? What is it that I'm actually changing in that time? And the reality of it is you're changing anything, anything that is continuously keeping you in the same place. So when it came down to me, what was keeping me stuck was, well, are people actually going to get into this program? And the answer is yes, there are people out there who want to find my program, who want to know how to do this themselves, how to check in with themselves and really understand what they're thinking, what they're feeling, how they can make changes without, making their life or like putting their life in upheaval. Which by the way, sometimes can happen, sometimes not. But people are like, what do I do? And the simple answer to that is anything. All right. In 2023, one of the things that I did was I did two things. I stopped drinking and I started waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And these two things, like these may sound like you're like, oh, well, those are kind of tiny. Yes, they are kind of tiny. I stopped drinking because I knew that I wanted to have more clarity. And a meme told me to. Like, that's how simple it was. A meme said, stop drinking for 90 days. And I was like, okay. And they were like, it'll change everything. And I was like, cool. So I was like, let me go ahead and check this out. And it was more of trying to like prove this meme wrong. Like, yeah, maybe you're saying that, but I don't really believe it. Let me go ahead and try it myself. Um, and then the waking up at 6 a.m. was so that I could really give back time to myself because I felt like I wasn't doing that. I felt like I wasn't giving enough time to myself. I was waking up in the morning, I was rushing off to work. Then when I came home, I was too tired to work on my business. So it was like, where do I really have the time to do these things? So I started waking up early, and I started committing that time, those 2 hours, to my business and what I was doing. Just like I'm up early recording this podcast right now, it's because I know that I want to continue to do the work that I do. How can I do that? By actually showing up. So I made myself show up in the way of waking up early. Now, yours may not be waking up early. Yours may not be stopping drinking, but it could look like you want to spend more time with your family. It could look like you want to, change your relationship, whether it be for the better or whether you feel like you need to get out of it. It may be you want to stop smoking. It may be you want to do art more. It may be you want to pick up a new hobby. Whatever it is, you want to go ahead and start when you are sure that's what you want to do. All right. And maybe you're not even sure. Maybe you're kind of just like, maybe this would help. Start it. When I stopped drinking, I didn't know what it was going to help, how it was going to help. You can go online and look up like what happens when you stop drinking and you know, learn about what happens to your body and everything like that. But I didn't realize like how much clarity I was going to receive, what that was going to do to my relationships, how that was going to change just about everything. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, was really and truly understanding how that change was going to affect not only me, but everyone in my life. So I always tell people, figure out what it is that you want to change and then start changing it. All right. When it comes to, you know, not smoking anymore, maybe you're like, I can't go to cold turkey. Cool. How many cigarettes do you smoke a day? Oh, well, I smoke like 5 cigarettes a day. Okay, cool. For the next week, only smoke 4 cigarettes a day. Then the week after that, only smoke 3. And then keep going down until you're at 1 a day. And then go ahead and do 1 a week or do 1 every 2 days. It doesn't take a whole lot to change your habits. And I think that's the one thing that people think, is that as soon as they change a habit, you know, they're not going to be able to do it for whatever reason. It's just like, sometimes you can just do it slowly. Like I did, mine was very abrupt. Like mine was a pattern interrupt into my life, because I was getting up at 8 o'clock every day. And taking 15 minutes, you know, 5 minutes to get ready and 15 minutes to go to work. Like I really was not giving myself the time to really relax into my day. And I was just like, fuck it, I'm getting up at 6, I'm gonna go do the things. And it was just like that with everything else. And that helped me, but that may not help you. Not drinking. I literally, on July 1st of 2023, I had my last bottle of wine. I sat and I drank a bottle of wine with a friend of mine. He was in Columbus, he was also going to do the same thing. He was like, yeah, I'll do it with you. And I was like, cool. So we drank that bottle. I was on the phone, we were on the phone together, we drank that bottle of wine. And that was the last bottle of wine that I had for, at that point, for 8 months. And that's because I was accidentally given a drink when I went to a restaurant. But that was my last drink for 8 months. And although every day I was like, I want to drink, I didn't. And I think a lot of people don't realize that when you change a habit, it really just takes willpower. I did not want to get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock every morning. But what did I do? I rolled out of bed and was like, I just have to do this TikTok. I just have to do this thing for my business. And that kept me going. So you want to find that thing that you want to change and go, okay, what little changes can I make? You want to start eating healthier. Awesome. What does that look like? What vegetables and fruits do you like? How often can you have these things? Incorporate those more into your diet. Hell, even people who don't want to go fully vegetarian are like, I will do 3 meatless days a week. That's what I want to do. And that's the habit. So you just have to figure out what that looks like. Okay. Now, one of the questions is, why should I start? And the thing is, I have another question for that, and it's, when do you want to see the change? And also, who are you now that you feel like you could be in your future? All right. When you look at the why you want to start, it's not just about, oh, because my family needs to see a role model, or because I really just need to stop smoking because it's bad for my health, or anything like that. What it is you taking command over your life and understanding that this change could change everything else in your life. One of the things that I did when I first, is it in the beginning of this one? I think it might be in the beginning. Yep, it's in the beginning of this one. So when I first started doing my, when I changed everything to transformational coaching, one of the things I did was I basically took a, like a little map. The way that I was told to do this was like, take a big piece of paper, draw a circle in the middle. Within that circle, write down the problems and the struggles that you have in regards to this particular habit. So, when it comes to smoking, you write down all the problems and the struggles that you have regarding smoking. And you can write in there like when you started smoking, why you started smoking, how you stopped before, and why you started again, things like that. You put all that stuff in that little circle. And then on the outside of that circle, you put another circle, and you talk about if you could fix this problem, if you could fix this problem of smoking, what would that look like for your money and finances? And then you talk about what that would look like. Well, I could save, $13 a day on cigarettes. I don't know what the price of cigarettes are. I know that they're expensive. And it could differ from if you buy a carton or if you buy just a box. I do know that, but how does that change your finances? And then you talk about what you could use those finances for and how it could really change all of that. Then on the outside of that circle, you do health and wellness. And it's if you could solve that problem of not smoking, like if you could start not smoking, what does that look like for your health and well-being? Then on the outside of that circle, you do family relationships. How does your not smoking affect your family and your relationships? And then you write that in that circle. And then the last but not least is what is it that goes into your future possibilities? You stop smoking and you've gotten all of these different things. You've gotten, more money, your relationships are better, your health is better. Now what happens in the future? And you would write that information out on the outside circle. And I think that is a good way to kind of see and understand your why, like understanding why you want to stop smoking. And your why is going to be completely different from somebody else's, right? I have a friend who said that they don't smoke because somebody they knew passed from lung cancer. And they used to smoke, 3 packs a day. That's a lot of cigarettes, by the way, but that's, we'll use it as a premise, right? So that's why the person stopped smoking. But what is keeping them from actually still picking up a cigarette and smoking more, right? And that's where that comes in. It's like, how do I start this? And then how do I continue to? Why should I do it? And you have to think about that for yourself and what that looks like. I stopped drinking because I knew that not only was it because of this meme, and I tell people that, a lot because that was the first reason why. Like it was like 90 days, see if you even need it. And I was like, all right, that seems like a cool challenge. But as I stopped drinking and started going through those days, I realized that I was doing it for way more than just a meme. I stopped drinking so that my attitude would be better. I stopped drinking so that I could gain clarity on the situations that I was in. I stopped drinking so that I couldn't numb my feelings anymore. And all of those things led to other possibilities. It led to me getting my finances together and understanding what it was that I wanted to do with my finances. My health got better, and that's not something that I even thought about when I started that journey. My relationships and my friendships became better because I was seeing who I wanted in my life and who I didn't. And everything just kind of snowballed from there. So your why when you start isn't going to be the same why when you keep going. Like my why now for not drinking is because it doesn't do anything for me now. It doesn't have the same effect. I used to use alcohol to numb my emotions. And now that I'm in a better place with my emotions, when I do have, when I am sad, when I am angry, I sit back and I look at why I'm angry, why I'm sad, and I look for a solution. Where before I just drink it away and not even deal with it. And that's the thing. Your why is going to change, but you want to figure out your initial why. So again, that's going to be different for everybody. Now, another thing that I realized is I tell people a lot of times that I started over, and some of those questions come with, how can you start over when you feel like you can't? So I tell people, and this is something that I use, this is an expression that I used a while back. What I did with my life is I did a controlled burn. I basically set my life on fire so that I could start over, but I did a controlled burn. I don't know if you've ever heard of like when people like set their crops on fire. And I'm not gonna say that I know a whole lot about it, but what I do know is that some people set their crops on fire so that they can basically start over from scratch. Because it's almost like so that the crops can be reborn out of those out of that old crop. So what they do is they burn their crops. And when they burn their crops, what they do is they don't just go out there and then set the whole thing on fire. Like, let's not start a forest fire out here. No, what they do is they do a controlled burn. They pick a section, they only burn that section, they let that section do its thing. Once that's done, they go ahead and go to another section. And then they burn that and they prepare that land as they continue to get their crops together. And that's the same thing, like the same methodology that I took in my life. I decided to do a controlled burn because what I realized is like, yes, we can start over completely from scratch, but for a lot of people that is overwhelming and it's very jarring. So like if you think about people who decided they're just going to uproot their lives and move to another state, that situation can be completely jarring if they haven't already set some steps in place. So what I tell people is when you're starting over, do a controlled burn. Figure out what it is that you want to start with and how that specific starting point is going to lead you to the ending point that you want. So your ending point in this particular situation that I'm talking about is your ending point is you want to move to another state. Awesome. You want to start over, you want to get away from the people that are in your city, you want to, find a new sports team, whatever your reason for moving. All right. That's what we're doing. Now, to do a controlled burn, you have to be able to get things, you have to be able to set like stepping stones to get to the moving. So the first thing is people don't just get up and move. I should say not often. People don't often get up and just decide, I'm gonna move to Oregon. Okay, they might, but it's not often. So this person gets up, there's like, okay, I want to move to Oregon. And what they do is they have a family, they have a life, their husband has a job, like their girlfriend is, just starting their modeling career. And now all of a sudden they want to move to Oregon. So now they have to think about, okay, how can I do this without disrupting everybody and what it is that they're doing and what they have going on, right? Sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes kids are too little to make a decision. Sometimes, people are moving for work, they're moving because they're in the military, things like that. If those are the cases and that's not something that you can help, then this probably doesn't work exactly the same. However, when you get to this point, when you get to where you're moving at, now you still have to start over. You can still create those stepping stones. But we're talking about creating those stepping stones before you move. So let's say that I decided that I wanted to move to Oregon and I was like, I want to sell my house. I want to move to Oregon because I just want to get out of Ohio. One of the first things that I would do is I'm moving to Oregon. I'm going to figure out what it is that I'm going to be doing for work there. So I'm probably going to go to, Indeed or something and look up Oregon and see what jobs they have available for someone doing what I do, whether it be in the energetic space, whether it be being a paralegal, things like that. I'm going to look for things that I can do. And I'm like, okay, I'm fairly confident that if I go there, I can actually do this and start building a life there. The next thing that I need to do is figure out where I'm going to live. I don't want to live in my car. And I know that there are some people who do, and that's okay. But me personally, I would like to have like a space. Like I don't even have to have a bed. I just want to have a house. I want to have a roof over my head, a house, apartment, whatever. So I'm going to also, within that finding a job, I'm also going to find a place to live. Right? Now, when it comes to controlling the burn, one of the things that I'm going to do is, all right, I've decided that I'm gonna move. All right, how do I get my affairs in order so that I can go ahead and do that? Do I have a date? Yes, my date is by the end of the year, right? End of 2024, I'm moving to Oregon. All right. So what do I need to do at this point? All right. Well, first, what I want to do is probably let my job know, like, hey, we need to start getting somebody into my position because I'm planning on moving to Oregon. They're probably gonna be like, why the hell are you doing that? Who knows? That's what we're doing. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk to them, let them know that that's the plan. Let's get somebody in here to train so that I can go ahead and leave, like 2 weeks before I get ready to move to Oregon, and get things together. So we're gonna do that. Now I cannot control what my employer decides to do. All right, they can decide to let me go right then and there. They can decide to do whatever. But because I work in a small office, and be like, hey, this is what I want to do. Let's go ahead and set you guys up for success so that when I leave, you guys have somebody to replace me. So we go ahead and do that. The next thing I'm going to do is figure out selling my house. All right, I have to sell my house and everything in it because the only things that are coming with me are my cats and my clothes, my computer, and some of these books. Like I guess I'll take my bed, right? So what do I need to do with that? Do I want to order a pod? Do I want to get a U-Haul? Do I want to, all of this stuff? Like what are the things all the steps that I need to do? So we go ahead and set that up. Then the next thing is, talking with my family, letting them know, letting any of my partners know, like really tearing down my life into these little pieces, into manageable pieces, so that over the next 4 months, when it comes to December and I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go, I already have everything together. I have my pod set up so that they can take all the things that I need, or I have my U-Haul so they can take all the stuff that I need. Like not often do people just shut down their whole life and go, okay, I'm doing this thing. Sometimes when people do that, they get so overwhelmed that they get stuck and then they don't do anything. If you start just by doing one little thing, one little stepping stone each to get to where you want to go, then that is going to help you not get overwhelmed. And that is something that I suggest for everybody when you're doing stuff, when you're thinking about things. Sometimes sometimes in situations like if you're in the military, you can't help that you're, going to be moved to an assignment. That can definitely jar a lot of families. Some families get used to it over time, but at the beginning, it's pretty jarring. So it's like creating a system for yourself, even in that situation, create a system for yourself. If you're not the one in the military, create a system for yourself where as soon as you move, these are the things that you're going to do. All right, first I'm going to find a job. Then I'm going to find friends. Then I'm going to do my hobbies outside of my home. And then like stuff like that so that you can start building little aspects of your life, like the community that you want and the support system that you need and things like that. So that as you start to, live this new life in this new place, you can have things that secure you in that space. Now, before I talk about where you can find me, one of the other questions that I came up with was, what can you do to live your life more fully? And I think that this is one of the things that people don't think about a lot. But I feel like over the last 3 years, I found the key to living my life more fully. And the reason I say this is because I have a lot of people who are like, wow, Tay, you are so happy all the time. And I'm just it's life. I'm just doing what I do best, right? And I'm just living my life. And I'm sure that people are like, well, how do you do it so fully? How do you just go out there and be great and shine and you're always happy and things like that. And one of the things that I realized for myself is that I want to be happy. I want to be happy. And I don't mean blissfully, ignorant happy. I mean aware, but not having to worry happy. And what that means to me is literally, I was just talking to my friend yesterday about this, about how I don't watch the news. And it's more so because of the amount of negativity that is in the news. So I don't like to watch the news. And for that reason, I don't know a lot of like current events, and that's okay. But one of the things that I am able to do is I'm still able to, I know what I know. I still look up stuff. Like I'm not blissfully ignorant to life, right? I know what's going on. I just don't put any energy to it. And the reason for that is because I really pay attention to how things make me feel. And in order for me to live my life more fully, I have to figure out what it is that I want. There is a talk on TED Talk. I talk about this all the time. There's a talk on TED Talk by, I believe her name is Sarah Knight, and it's called The Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And she talks about how you have all of these things that are going on in your life. And at the end of the day, if you don't give a fuck about it, don't do it. And I take that with everything that I do. And I think this goes a long way because of my like the commitments that I have for myself and the things that I like to do in my life and how I create happiness for myself. I really decide what it is that I give a fuck about and I do those things. And if I don't give a fuck about it, I don't do those things. So one of the things that I realized for myself was how seriously I took me not drinking. And I didn't realize this until I had accidentally gotten a drink and I literally cried. And I didn't realize how much that actually meant to me, like how much it meant to me that I not drink. And it's the same thing with everything else in your life. When it comes to living your life fully, you make commitments to yourself and you have to keep those commitments and know like this is something that I truly want to do. And a lot of people do this by creating New Year's resolutions. I personally did this by creating a focus word for the year. Instead of saying, I want to lose weight at the beginning of the year and then falling off because of whatever reason I decided to fall off. Like I don't like working out, so I'm not going to. That will probably never be a New Year's resolution for me. But my focus word would probably be physical fitness. That would be my focus word for the year, physical fitness. And then I would define what that looks like. It looks like staying at a healthy weight. I don't know, 135 pounds for my height. It looks like eating healthier. It looks like making sure that I'm walking every other day, things like that. And with that, you really have to look at, okay, how is this going to fulfill me? Because you want to know the why. Why am I doing this? Well, I want to eat healthier because I started getting winded as I was walking up the stairs. I only have 13 stairs and I started getting winded. This is actually a true story. I remember I was like walking around my house one day. I walked up the stairs. I don't have that many stairs. And I got winded at the top of the stairs. And I was like, what the heck is this? This is not okay. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start walking more. I'm going to start jogging and running as well. And it started to help with that because I started to get better in shape. Now, is this something that I do on a consistent basis? No. But do I realize when my body needs to walk more? Do I realize when my body needs to take a run? Absolutely. And I go out and I do it. And I think a lot of times we need to listen to ourselves. We need to listen to our bodies. And one of the ways that I do that is by doing the chakra alignment and helping people through my journey to energetic alignment workshop. Because what it allows you to do is it really allows you to pay attention to what it is that you want from your body, pay attention to what it is that you want from your life, and then it allows you to, it opens your mind and your body and your emotional state to what it is that you can do to actually make that happen. And that within itself helps me to live my life more fully. Like this year for 2024, my focus word was fulfillment. And I should say is, because the year's not over yet. It's fulfillment. And it really was looking for things in my life that fill me, that fulfill a need, that fulfill my dreams. And so far, I think we're doing pretty good, honestly. Now, are there still some things that I want to complete before the end of the year? Absolutely. I still have a goal of, one of my goals is to be able to have a conversation with someone in Spanish for an hour. And that in and of itself, I started at the beginning of the year, and then like probably around May, I fell off. So from now until the end of the year, I'm thinking, all right, what can I do to make this a reality, to help me feel fulfilled in this way? I really do want to learn Spanish. I've wanted to learn Spanish for a long time. One of my dream vacations and goals is to go to Spain for a month. And I want to be able to speak the language. So how do I do that? Well, I want to start getting a tutor before the end of the year so that I can do that. Do I plan on using that for anything other than my own personal reasons? Probably not. I do plan on using it for work, probably. And I haven't even talked to my boss about that actually. But you know, using it for work, because we do have some people who call in who are looking for Spanish speakers. And unfortunately at my office, we don't have any. But would it be nice to be able to help that part of the community? Absolutely. But that's with anything. That's in my coaching, that's when I'm out and about, like, am I able to do that? Yes, because I took the time, I learned the language. But that would be something that would be fulfilling. When I looked at fulfillment and what that looked like, it was picking something every month different that I wanted to do, whether it was taking myself out on a date, whether it was going to a rage room, whether it was going rock climbing or going to Niagara or something. I wanted to do something different each month that wasn't the same that I did the month prior. And it was really about figuring out what it was that I wanted in my life and how I could be more fully myself. So in reality, all you have to do is really look at your life and figure out what it is that you want from it. What is it that will make you feel full? How can you live your life fully? I can give you all the ways till Sunday on how I do it myself. But that isn't going to help you if that's not something that you're interested in. So really just figure out what it is that you want to do. And how your life would be fulfilled in this moment. So now I've told you who I am, what I do, how you can get started on change, why you should get started on change, and how you can figure that out, and then how you can live your life more fully. So now I'm going to tell you where to find me. So you can email me at info@desirablephoenix.com. I answer all of my emails. You can shoot me a text message on my text line, or you can leave me a voicemail on my voice line at 330-552-7234. With any questions that you have or anything like that. You can find me on social media. I am on Facebook. I have a Facebook group called Turn Your Excuses into Success, where I talk about tips and tricks on how to actually change your life, how to move things forward, how to do that control burn. I also have a TikTok and Instagram. Those handles are Phoenix of Change. And basically I talk about the little things that you can change in your life that can help you make bigger changes in your life. And I always tell people, start small. I started with two things. I didn't start with, I want to stop drinking. I want to wake up early. I want to work on my finances. I want to, you know, work on my relationships. I didn't decide to do all that stuff at one time. I picked one thing, and by changing that one thing, or in my case, those two things, it helped me to start looking at everything else. It helped me started to look at my relationships and what I wanted for my relationships and who I wanted to be there and who I didn't want to be there. And then within that, I started looking at my finances and started figuring that out about savings and you know, how to get rid of debt and all of that stuff. Like I started doing these things incrementally. And in reality, it was very helpful. It was super helpful to be able to do these things. So you really want to look at your life and figure all of that out. Like, what is it that you want to do? How can you do it? And then just start. So I hope that this podcast is super helpful for you. If so, please share this with other people. And if you listen to other episodes of my podcast and you like those episodes, please share and subscribe. That helps me get out to other listeners, and it helps you not to miss anything in my podcast series or in any of the episodes that I decide to do. It helps you to not miss that information and get your daily dose of tips and tricks on how to really live a better life, a more full life, a more authentic life. So I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of the week. I will talk to you guys soon, and have a good one. Bye. Thank you for listening to Dear Tay, You Got This. If you liked this podcast episode and found it helpful, please subscribe today and share this episode with a friend. If you have any questions, comments, wins, or would like to be featured on this podcast, please call or text 330-552-7234 or email info@desirablephoenix.com. See you next week.